Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this episode of the On the Mark Financial Forum and Podcast. We have a special guest today, Rachel Keller. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, I'm so honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And why don't you tell the group about who you are and the company you work for and your involvement with senior living in general?
Yeah, absolutely. So, hi, everybody. Thanks for hanging out and listening to us for this conversation. I'm Rachel. I'll start off with how I got involved in the senior living industry. So, my background is actually in broadcast journalism. And from the time I was 16, I always had a big goal that I wanted to be a national talk show host, which, hey, you never know, might still happen. But I went to
I'll put in a
school.
word.
I know, right? Hey, if you have any contacts, let me know.
We'll
But
see. Yeah.
yeah, I went to school for a journalism degree and got to the end of my senior year, and the capstone class was taught by the dean of the journalism school. And the entire semester was about the journalism of outrage and how you could anger people every single day with your storytelling. And I had a moment of crisis being 22, brain not fully developed, and thought, oh my gosh, I can't do this the rest of my life. I don't want to anger people every day. I've got to figure out something else. And so what ended up happening was that I started doing video storytelling, which eventually led me into marketing, which eventually led me into marketing and sales for senior living. And that's how I got in the industry. But I think, like many of us, when we do go to senior living, we want to stay because it's such an incredible industry. And I really, really enjoy being here now that I'm here. So that's a little bit about my story. But the company that I work for is called Catalyst Senior Living Solutions. And I'm very honored to be their VP of Sales and Marketing. So, Catalyst combines contact center services with expert financial advocates. And our whole goal is helping senior living operators achieve higher occupancy with those two lead management services.
The contact side a little bit more. Tell us how that works.
Yeah. So communities that use us for a contact center, basically what happens is all of those leads that come in from the phone calls or your website, think your Place for Mom leads, your Google ads, those get routed to the contact center. And we have an entire team of advocates who act as an extension of your sales team. So they actually match your community's sales philosophy, have that first initial conversation, just essentially get that basic discovery and then pass them off to local sales teams to continue handling the relationship, give an amazing tour experience, and take the lead from there. And really, the whole idea is just to be that extra helper because we know that at the community level, salespeople are super busy. They have so many tasks that they have to perform every day that oftentimes they just can't get to leads right away. So we're able to really help get to those leads quickly and then pass them back off to the sales team.
Yeah, and it's very similar on the mortgage side too. If you're not the first person to either answer the phone or to get back to somebody, there's a high likelihood that they're making another call in the meantime.
Exactly.
So it's so critical that you get back to people fast. And that's like we've structured our whole team around that because we know that we're going to be losing business otherwise. So
It's
I imagine
funny.
that's, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Our CEO, Tim Donnelly, he actually came from the mortgage industry. And so he came to senior
Oh, can't
living.
imagine why he left.
Yeah, right. But he saw that problem. He said that saw the same thing of what you're talking about and was like, "Oh my goodness, we need this for senior living." And it's true. I mean, it's true with any industry. I was with my husband earlier and he was trying to find somebody to be like a pest exterminator and called somebody. They didn't answer. And so within an hour, he was calling somebody else. And so if you're not quickly getting back to people, the reality is they're going with your competition.
Yeah, and we're definitely in that day and age where people are used to immediate gratification, and if they don't get something right away, it's just irking. And I'm guilty of that too, depending on what it is. I see some things are more important than others, but in any sales space where you're selling a product that is similar to or the same as your competitors, it's definitely speed and service are really key. And I
Oh
would
yeah.
imagine maybe you can talk about the challenges that the senior facilities have in being able to staff for that? Because that would be, I would imagine, a pretty significant expense to be able to have the staff available to be able to answer questions as quickly as you guys do at Catalyst.
Yeah, well, I'm curious with you. You talked about how you've kind of been conditioned to this behavior, like I want what I want when I want it. I'm the same way. I mean, if you think about Amazon, it's like we all have instant gratification. If I order something, it could be on my doorstep the next day. So I'm curious. You are running your business full time, more than full time. If you needed to reach out to get, let's say, make a vet appointment for your pet or do some sort of appointment for somebody else in your family, when would you find the time to reach out and schedule that appointment?
Never.
True.
I have a whole list of things I'm supposed to do, but here I am recording a podcast with you instead. So
Oh my gosh.
work tends to be the priority for sure. But when there's a free moment, it's usually short and hard to find.
Yeah, well, I love what you said is like work is a priority. You're a very busy person. You don't have the time. It's like that is the consumer experience for the people who are looking into senior living, typically for their parent, right? And it's like, all right,
Right.
they're all working busy jobs. I'm probably going to inquire Sunday morning when I have a chance, right? But what happens is that senior living communities are only employing their salespeople to be on the clock 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. And yet it's hard for them because any other time when they may be having dinner with their own families or at their kids' soccer games on a weekend, if a call comes in, they're still going to have to, if they can, get back to it. So, in a way, it's like they're always on the clock. And so, what's really nice about having a contact center is that if you are at that local level, you essentially get to have a better work life balance. You can be hanging out with your family while you know you have a trusted team that's like taking all those leads so they're not getting missed. And that's the great thing about a contact center.
Yeah, and you're right. It's the adult children who are reaching out, and I kind of put myself in that realm. Like my parents are in their late 70s, and I'm
Yeah.
in that sandwich generation where I have young kids, and they need my attention. And you're right. It's just fitting it in wherever you can. And sometimes that's at night. Sometimes it's on a weekend. It's very rarely during the regular business hours. Almost never.
Yeah.
So
Would
I fit the mold of what you're describing to a T.
I,
But yeah, so tell me, what are the services like? What is the experience happen? So a lead is calling in, they reach someone from Catalyst. Are you answering the phone as though you're from the community? Are you vetting that lead? Like how exactly does that look?
Yeah. So we know a senior living initial conversation is different than any other initial conversation that you're going to have. It's highly personal. You're talking about either yourself or your family. So it can be an emotional conversation. So you need a certain type of individual who's going to be able to handle that with grace. And so we do act as an extension of your brand. So that means that, can you hear my dog barking? Sorry. Can we cut this out? Okay.
This
Okay.
is meant to be personal and let the dogs go. No
Okay,
problem.
sorry about that, guys.
No, it's great.
Speaking of like work-life balance, yeah, my dogs are like, "It's dinner time, excuse me."
Yeah, exactly. Well,
But
now people know we're not just AI bots, right? We're
yeah,
real live people with pets.
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, but we do act as that extension of your sales team. So we, during the onboarding process, learn your brand, learn how you qualify, and use your philosophy in those initial conversations.
got it. And I can imagine those might be very different from one community to another, right?
Yeah, it can be really tough, but thankfully we've been around for about 10 years now. And so we've really learned how to perfect having this conversation. And while each community may have their unique philosophy or a unique thing that makes them different, a lot of times those questions that you might be asking someone looking for senior living is very similar. So we
Right.
have a system in place that helps us be able to share community specific details while at the same time training people to broadly be able to have that conversation.
Right. And I would imagine this would be much more cost effective than, as you mentioned, as a community trying to staff at, 24/7. and just be available for that call if it comes. But sometimes the call may not come, so
Yeah.
you have to have your staff on just in case the phone rings, not only because the phone is necessarily ringing at that moment.
Yeah, exactly. If you're somebody listening, you're like, hey, this kind of sounds nice. I would love to have the help with my lead management or managing my leads, or even have someone cover me when I'm on the weekends. It is a very cost effective solution. Typically,
Yeah.
it costs around $5 per community for hour. Which, if you think about, if you were to try and hire someone else to work on the weekends, even if they're part time, you're not going to be able to pay them $5 an hour.
No, that's that sounds pretty reasonable to me. I might hire you guys just to help me manage my day-to-day life. If it's $5 an hour, count me in. It's like
Right?
that's like Fiverr. What is that website, Fiverr? Where you can get
Yeah,
anyone to
yeah.
do anything for $5.
I know. Yeah.
Um, well, it sounds very reasonably cost, and yeah, $5 an hour be tough to compete with that if you have to have your own staff. And then do you do like I know sometimes there's initial vetting of maybe medical conditions or whatever it may be. Like, are you guys doing any initial vetting of those people just to make sure they're even good candidates for the community that they're calling?
Yeah, that's a really good point. The whole idea is that you want to be passing off qualified leads to the sales team, because anyone who's listening to this knows that salesperson works extremely hard, and a lot of their day can be just chasing leads that sometimes aren't qualified. And so with us, we work with whoever it is that's the sales and marketing leader to talk about what will be a qualified lead that you would want us to be passing over to your team. So we do that during onboarding, figure out what makes somebody a good lead for you, and we'll have them go over according to those metrics.
Imagine as a sales leader in the mortgage industry, if I was able to have somebody not only just answer the phone at the times where I am not or don't want to be available or can't be available, but the even more valuable part is making sure that the people that I am talking to are qualified and that they're actually viable candidates for the service that we're offering. I think that's even more valuable than just the time and
Hmm.
availability. I mean, I'm speaking for myself and my own experience. That's where I'd see like
Yeah.
big dollar signs of savings of just not wasting time. Because at some point, I'm sure the sales directors and the sales teams have the same issue. Time is your biggest constraint,
Yeah.
and you just don't have time to talk to everybody right when they want to be, having a conversation, and that can be really helpful. And I
Yeah.
know Catalyst, because we've now started working together, but I want you to explain to our community the financial side of what you guys do as well, because it's not just contact center, but there's a whole other side to your business as well.
Yeah, that's right. So, just like how we have an extension of your sales team on the contact center side, we also have an extension of your sales team on the financial advocate side. So, what that looks like is that if you have a lead or a prospect that's coming into your community, they're searching for senior living, and maybe they have financial concerns, you can refer that over to our team of advocates who work with that family one on one for an average of 11 hours, working with them for financial resources, one of which, by the way, is you all. So we're super, super excited to be partnered with you on that. And just having that in depth financial conversation, getting them financially confident to move in. And we really work with the families every step of the way. We work with our resource partners like yourself every step of the way. And then all to the point where they're ready to move in or get that resource. So that's also the second part of our business that operators can choose to use.
Yeah, and it's such an important part, especially because, let's be honest, senior living is not inexpensive for families, especially if they're
Yeah.
looking at a long-term solution. And I know mortgage is only one of those that you guys talk about. There's lots of other aspects that you guys are looking at and should be looking at,
Mhm.
because, you can't only look at one source of being able to fund something that will cost this much and this much over time. But it's a really great combination, and to be honest, a very unique one, as far as offering that financial consulting. And so
Mhm.
the way that it works logistically for those in the senior living industry is that you get hired by the community, right?
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Got it.
So We get hired by the community. It's similar to contact center where you pay a subscription fee at the communities. We don't receive any kickback from any of our resources, which really is a way that makes us different. But you mentioned earlier that the way that it works right now is that families may be relying on one or two resources to be financially qualified to afford senior living. That's not always, those one or two resources aren't always the answer. And so with us, we have 32 plus resources that we use. So we can really, really personalize it based off what a family needs.
Real estate is obviously where people have a lot of wealth just because they've maybe own their homes, especially the people who are aging now. The baby boomer generation, they're
Yeah.
they're kind of like what we call the buy and hold generation,
Mm.
where they probably, in many cases, on average, bought their homes like years and years and years
Oh.
ago, and they hung on to them and they still live in them, and which means that they've built a lot of equity, and and it's a pleasure for us to be part of that relationship to be able to help people figure out if taking financing against their home is the right solution. There's some issues with selling because you might trigger some capital gains tax. It could be pretty significant. So it's a pleasure for us to be able to come in and operate on your behalf to be able to help
Aw.
people that are have questions about that specific option. So,
Oh, yeah.
but it is such a unique blend because I have yet to find other companies that do both of those, let alone the contact side may be a little more common, but the financial side is really something that we see people lacking. They're just not
Mhm.
getting, like seniors getting, just not getting proper financial advice and not understanding the tax implications of the different moves that they might make. And we've seen people do things that seem to make sense, and the families seem to, like selling the home, for example. We had a recent case come across our desk. It was something that had already taken place, so there was no ability to help them, and it was not through you, it was just through another contact of ours,
Mhm.
where the senior had owned her home for decades,
Mm.
bought it for next to nothing. It was in it was in an area that became very, very expensive,
Mm.
and 50 years later the home is worth like $4 million, and
Wow.
the family decided to sell the home rather than financing it because they didn't realize that there were other alternatives to pay for care, and they ended up writing like $1 million check to the IRS, for no reason. They could have been avoided. um, so instead of of giving that money to their families someday, it went to the IRS, which is like such a shame. Like nobody wants the IRS to get rich, right? They
Yeah.
want to leave money to their families and be able to leave a legacy in that way. And that it's stories like that that inspire us to do what we do and to do the podcast and to bring awareness to people, because oftentimes people make big, big, impactful decisions without any real understanding of what the implications of their decisions are. And so that's really, like, for me, education is like what drives me to do this
Mhm.
every day and to continue to work within the senior community. And I just feel like this need to like protect seniors because there's so many people that are predatory toward them. And I don't know if you feel the same way. And I'm going on a tangent here, but
Oh, I
it's just a
appreciate.
community that needs help.
Yeah, I love hearing your passion behind it, and I think that's why we love partnering with you so much. It's just your heart for seniors. And at the end
Yeah,
of the day, we're here to provide a better experience for seniors that are inquiring about their senior living journey. Whether that's
right.
coming into a community, you want to have an amazing experience. Like, what is it like? You're making a huge decision, and one situation is that you call, no one answers, no one gets back to you. You finally got the courage to call, and then no one gets back to you for several days, versus you finally got the courage to call, and all of a sudden you have someone who's there, who's a warm, empathetic voice, who's understanding, who cares about the details. Think about the difference of that experience. Now, on
Yeah.
the other side, financial side, you're right. And we were talking about, I'm so thankful. Thank you, because I know you said you sent me your book and I can't wait to read it. But it's like no one teaches you how to adult and all the things that you need to do to adult. And we're all just figuring it out as we go. whether you're like me, who recently bought my first house, or you're at, the point where you're looking for senior living for your parents. We all are just trying to figure it out one step at a time, and we need trusted advisors to come hold our hands and say, here's how you do it. There is another way. And that's why you're here. That's why we're here. We want to provide that better experience. And it can be, we just need to get the word out there. So grateful for you and grateful for podcasts like these that are truly helping seniors in that way.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's my pleasure to do it, and it's something that's really a passion project for me.
Mhm.
Regardless of how many people are listening to each episode, we just feel like at some point the right person is going to listen to this at the
Yeah.
right time and understand how it works. And you're right, there is no manual for life,
Oh,
especially for adulting and knowing all the things that you need every day. I always say I learn as much on this podcast as I share, if not more.
hmm hmm
So talking to people like you is really refreshing to be able to understand the nuances of the senior living industry, but also, the nuances of the families that are calling. Because you made a great point. Like they finally got the courage to call. Like
Yeah.
I'm putting myself in that situation. My parents, fortunately, are not quite at that stage. But for every family, it probably gets to that point, hopefully, that, your parents are aging and you want to help them and take care of them.
hmm
And I put myself in the shoes of the people that you're referring to and say, God, that really would be a really difficult call to make, to think that,
Yeah.
your parents aren't really capable of staying at home. Or maybe you think, home care is going to be too expensive, or whatever reason it is that you're making that decision to call. It's not an easy call to make.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
And
would imagine you've got to have some very compassionate people answering those calls. Otherwise, it's not gonna be well received.
well, the way we're seeing it right now with senior living is people aren't necessarily being proactive and getting in senior living earlier. It's
Yeah,
typically a needs based, I have to make this move. And so that even adds more to that moment of calling in because it's not like, oh, hey, yeah, we're just trying to be proactive. It is that sometimes, but not all the time. And so if it's typically a needs based, oh, mom's falling or we're missing medication, it makes that conversation that much harder. And that's why we're really passionate about making sure the people we hire are going to be equipped to be empathetic for those to handle those types of conversations.
I wish everyone was as proactive as the professionals would want them to be. My
Right.
my general mortgage experience has not been that. Usually, people call us when if they're trying to buy a house. It's usually after they've already found the house that they're calling to try to figure out. Oh my God, I got to make an offer on this. The next 6 hours. How do
Yeah.
we do that? As opposed to trying to call, maybe 6 months in advance and say, I'm thinking about this ahead of time. It's just not human nature. We've all got busy lives and families and dogs and everybody that needs our attention. It's hard to really plan ahead. Um, but Rachel, I want to thank you so much for coming in and sharing about your experience and your company and the unique things that you guys are doing. And we are equally as excited to be partnering with you guys, and I'm sure that we're gonna work a lot together to help people, and that's really the most important thing. So thank you so much for joining us. Any final thoughts, or if people want to find your company or you individually, like what's the best way for them to find out more if a community is interested in talking with you guys?
Yeah. So I would say that if you want to reach out to me directly, the best way to do that is to find me on LinkedIn. Again, my name is Rachel Keller. So send me a message. I would love to connect with you. Also, have a podcast of my own called Female Fridays, where I interview women in the senior living industry and can give you that life manual we were talking about, but when it comes to career advice. So I'd love to meet you all there. But then if you're interested in what we talked about today, as far as the contact center or our financial advocates solution, you can go to catalystseniorlivingsolutions.com. And that is where you'll find us.
Sounds great. And I've checked out the podcast. That's actually where I first learned about you, is
Yeah.
watching some of those episodes. And I know I don't qualify to be on it. I understand. But I appreciate what you do there and the conversations that you're having, and just, similar to what we're trying to do, just raise the bar of understanding and knowledge of the industry, and helping people feel at ease. So you're
We're
very
gonna
good at that. So
Thank you. We're gonna get Jess on. So
okay, it sounds good. All right, she'll be my stand-in. She knows, just
yeah.
she's great.
Uh-huh.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to the audience for checking out this episode of On the Mark, and we'll look forward to seeing you all next time. Take care.